Hello and welcome back to this course. In the previous two sessions, we have discussed the decision control structures, that is if statement and if else statement. In this session, we are going to discuss about the case control structures. So let's start. Now in real life, we are often faced with situations where we are required to make a choice between a number of alternatives rather than only one or two. For example, which schools to join. So we have a number of options for that. Okay, which mobiles to purchase or which hotels to book for a holiday. Okay, so similarly, the C program is same. The choices we are asked to make is more complicated than merely selecting between two alternatives. C provides a special control statement that allows us to handle such cases effectively rather than using a series of if statement. Okay, so like suppose we have a number of test condition or a number of choices, then we have to write a multiple if statements, right? But the C provide a special control statements which is used in such handy situation. Let's see how we can make decision using switch statement and how it is different from if else statement. So the switch case statement. Now the control statement that allows us to make a decision from the number of choices is called a switch, or more correctly a switch case default, since these three keywords go together to make up the control statement. Now this is the syntax for switch statement: switch, case and default. These three keywords combine to form the complete switch statement. Okay, now the expression following the keyword switch, that means this one, is any C expression that will yield an integer value. Okay, that means the output of this expression should be an integer value. It could be an integer constant or a character constant, or if it is an expression, then this expression should evaluate to an integer, and whatever integers will be evaluated, the keyword case is followed by that particular integer value or character value, and each constant case are different from each other. There will be no any similar values like value 1, value 2, value n. These will be different from each other. Code block. The code block lines in the above form of switch represent any valid C statement. That means with respect to this particular case, let's say value 1, what are the code that we want to execute? So we can write here. Okay, and once we are done with a particular case, we need to break this statement. So this break is used to terminate this switch statement. Let's take an example. There is a main function and we have int I equal to 2. Okay, so we have an integer constant having the value 2. So we have implemented a switch case with this value I. So I is equal to 2, and for it is 1, like for case 1 we have printf like I am in case 1, for 2 I am in case 2, and for case 3 I am in case 3, and for default I am in default. Okay, now if you run this code, you will get the output of the program I am in case 2, 3 and default. Okay, if you see the output, it is definitely not what we expected. We did not expect the second and third line in the above output. The program print case 2 and 3 and the default case. Well, yes, we said that switch execute the case where a match is found and all the subsequent cases and the default as well. That means this case 2 matches, and after that this and this, all these three statements are executed. So that's why there is a need of a break function after every case constant. Okay, so case 1 printf the required message, and after that a break. Similarly for case 2 the required message and then break. Similarly for case 3 the message and the break. And you will see that after default there is no any break function, because this default will be executed if any of the case constant doesn't match. Okay, so if we run this code, we'll get the actual output that we will be expecting. Okay? Next thing is if else if ladder. Now this same scenario can be implemented by if else if ladder. Now what is this if else if ladder is that sometime in programming we need to test multiple condition back to back. Then if else statement does not fit for such kind of situation. So there is modified form of if else is used as shown. Okay, so this is the syntax for if else if ladder, like if then condition, and if it is condition is true, then this first condition will be executed, else another condition, like for second condition the new condition is tested and required statement will be executed, and similarly keeps on testing multiple condition, and at the last we have an else block that if any of this condition does not satisfy, then at the end else block will be executed for false branch. So if you see, the execution of this if else ladder is equivalent as of switch. Okay, so we can perform the same scenario using this if else if ladder. We can execute one group of statement if the expression evaluates to true, and if the expression evaluates to false, then we can perform another test expression and follow the same execution pattern. The statement is used called as if else if statement, and the syntax for the statement is as we have discussed here. Now if you see, this if else if ladder and the switch case statement are both equivalent. That means we can use both of them to implement a similar scenario. So what is the difference between this switch versus if else ladder? Okay, the very first is the condition expression. Okay, now there are some things that you simply cannot do with the switch, and these are: a float expression cannot be tested using a switch, as we have seen that the expression in switch case statement is a constant value, whether it is an integer constant or a character constant. Cases can never have variable expression. That means we cannot write case a plus 3. We have to write a constant value like case 3, case 4, case 5, and so on. Multiple cases cannot use same expression, as we have already seen that the case constant have different values from others. But if else ladder support all these constant of switch case statement. Okay, that means we can test a float expression, we can test in variables, even multiple cases have same expression. Okay, second most important thing for switch is execution speed. Switch works faster than an equivalent if else ladder. Now this is because the compiler generates a jump table for a switch during compilation. As a result, during the execution, it simply refers the jump table to decide which case should be executed, rather than actually checking which case is satisfied. But in case of if else ladder, the evaluation is at the execution time, so the speed is slow as compared to switch. Okay, but there is a contrary, like if there is one or two condition test, then if else will work faster than the switch, because switch will have to create a jump table and then refer that jump table to execute a particular case. Okay, so whenever there is a number of choices increasing more than 5 to 6, then it's better to use switch instead of if else ladder. Okay, now let's understand with an example in the code block. So let's move to the code block section. So get back to the code block window, again go to file, click a new empty file and save this file to the C projects. Okay, so again create a new folder, write switch. Now open this folder and save the C file here, switch demo you can write, and click save. Okay, write comment demonstration for switch statement. Okay, so the very first thing that we are doing is including the header file. So stdio.h within angle brackets. Now void main starting the curly brackets. Okay, now what we are going to do in this is we will be receiving a number from 1 to 7, and for each numbers received we have to display the equivalent weekday. Okay, like for 1 it is Sunday, for 2 it's Monday, and so on. So let's take int num. Okay, so we have defined a variable int num. Now we are printing the message for the output window, that is enter the number from 1 to 7. Okay, so we have printed the message for entering the number between 1 to 7. Okay, now we are reading it. So scanf, we are reading the integer value, therefore specify format d, %d format specifier, and next we are storing the value at num. Okay, so we have printed the message, we have received the value from the user. Now we are applying switch case. Okay, so switch, the expression is num, which is the character constant. Okay, now we have to define the very first case, which is 1, and we have to printf for case constant 1, which is equal to Sunday, and /n for new line. Okay, so there is very first case constant, that is if the number is 1, we'll print Sunday. Okay, next similarly we can paste the code for 1 to 7. Okay, That means Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday and Saturday for 7 cases. And last one is default case. Okay, so at the default I can write printf wrong number. Okay, so we are done with the code. Go to build and you will see the build finished with 0 errors and 0 warnings. Okay, now run this code. As you can see, the message has been printed like enter the number from 1 to 7. Let's say I'm entering 5. You can see that after case 5, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and wrong number, all 4 of these has been printed because we have not used the break function. Okay, that's why whenever the case match with the 5, so it executed this statement and following all the statements for various cases, whether it matches or not. So whenever there is a match, it will execute all the statements after that. Fine, so let's make the required changes. So what I'm doing is I'm adding the break function every case. Okay, so I'm copying this for enter, paste. So we can paste the break function after every case statement. Okay, so done. Now let's again build and run the code. Okay, so again we get the output message that is enter the number from 1 to 7. Let's say I'm entering 2, so I'll get only Monday. Okay, and rest of things will be not executed. So this is the function of a switch case statement. Similarly, run again and try entering different values. Let's say I'm entering 5, so I'll get Thursday. Okay, so I hope that the statements for the decision control as well as case control is clear to you. If you have any queries related to any statements, feel free to reach us. Okay, so that's all for this session. See you in the next one.